Okay, guys. And I'm sorry if this is boring to you. I'm gonna try to be real fast on this because it's boring as shit to me, and I really didn't want to go here, but I'm dealing with an estranged, distant relative, a guy that I really don't know that well, that I've met maybe two or three times in my life, and who has some problems. This started, and I started this basically. This started around 2018, late 2018, when we had a father. I'll say our father, who was dying of cancer, and this was a deadbeat dad. I don't know this guy. I've only met our father a less than a handful of times. All right, and I did not like this guy. Whatever personality that I kind of absorbed from this individual, I did not like. I don't like the person. He's very bigoted. He's very, not that I think badly of Donald Trump, though I think he's immature and he's idiotic in his emotions, and he's emotionally immature and stupid. I don't think he's necessarily a bad guy, but these people from this kind of paternal part of the family is very pro-Trump. That's not what this is about, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of what this guy's like. Very bigoted, called celebrities the N-word casually, was not a nice guy. He was dying of cancer, okay? And in 2018, throughout 2018, actually, since the beginning, January, February of 2018, I was kind of dragged by another relative who's darker than me, and I'm Mediterranean. Well, my mother's Mediterranean, and that guy, the father's background is like German, Irish, or whatever, but I guess he's considered white. But they divorced when we were very young. My sister was 4 and I was 2, and we were raised by our mother. We never had child support. We were very much alone. I dealt with a lot of abuse from a shitty mom that I still love very much. I think because my sister looked kind of like this guy, our father, my mom had more of an affinity towards her. And by the time she was having abortions, having children, by the time she was 16, she was having kids. The abuse from my mother to me while I was paying rent between the ages of 16 and 18, the abuse got pretty bad because my mom, I think, was using the money that I was giving to her to pay for my sister's living expenses along with her husband that she had just married by the time she was 16, a few months after she was pregnant and decided to keep the baby. So I come from that kind of experience, just dumb, shitty people, and I'm so sorry to even have to admit this, but all the while when I was growing up, when I became a young adult, when I entered the military, when I was on my own after the military for good, and I'm in my mid to late 40s, okay, I'm in my late 40s, I was very much on my own, and that's fine, that's life, I don't expect my mom to help me or anything like that. I've never asked my mom for any assistance. I've never expected that from my mom. But I come from not so very smart people, and when I was in my mid-40s, I learned that our deadbeat dad, who never paid child support, had cancer. And he also had a son from a second marriage. I didn't really know this guy. By the time I met him, maybe for the second or third time, he was in his early 40s, and I was in my mid-40s. And the guy didn't seem to like me so well when I introduced myself, and I think it had a lot to do with my sister, who I had made many complaints about when it came to child neglect and some abuse issues. Child truancy issues. Apparently, she never had her kids from her second marriage go to homeschool when she took the kids out of school when the oldest of 4 siblings was taken out of school when he was in the 6th grade. So I come from garbage. And I know that sounds really dramatic. I don't mean to say it like that, but I'm just going to get to the point. I didn't like my father. I didn't want to get to know him. I didn't even want to believe he was my father, because there's another situation between my mother and my uncle, as I believe. But I'm not going to go there because it's a waste of time at this point. But my father and my sister and the stepbrother from the father's second marriage would meet up in Florida about 3 to 4 times in 2018, and I was not really comfortable meeting with them. I mainly went there to see my mom, because my mom was usually there, and my mom and I weren't really comfortable being around these people. Both my sister and the father would be very bigoted and use the N-word, and I just wasn't comfortable with that. I wasn't really brought up that way. By the time my sister married her second husband, he was a bigot, didn't like black people, even though he had a biracial niece living at his mom's home for some years, and she had children with another biracial individual. So it's just stupid, but it's stupid to even go into. But why am I making this video? Okay, so 2 months before our father would die of cancer, he had lung cancer, esophageal lung cancer, because he smoked a lot, basically. And I had defended my sister and her husband, even though I didn't really like them. I didn't like the way they behaved and their thought process of life and how they raised their children. I still defended them because Paul, the father, our father, didn't like these people. And he didn't say very nice things about him. So I finally, I don't know, maybe I was drinking too much wine. I was just being stupid. I ended up texting my father, and I told him what I really thought of him. So I was kicked out of the will. I was going to be given like a house that his late brother, who was a doctor in LA, died a year before he would die. He died in LA. The uncle died in LA. Had some property, some assets. I'm not even sure what the hell he had, but I was kicked out of my father's will not soon after, but it would take 2 months for him to change the will. I do believe my sister, who is very much like this father, very lazy, very money orientated. If she can get money from someone. She abused my mother. She harassed my mother. She stole from my mother ever since she was 12 years old. She was having sex since she was 12 years old. She was having abortion since she was 14 years old. My mom went through hell. And the abuse that my mom put upon me was even worse by the time I was 16. And she was 18 having her second child. It got really bad. So I come from garbage, basically. Yay, yeah. I know a lot of you feel the same way. I'm sure many of you have gone through. This is not a very unique situation. So this is not the point of the story. I finally told my father what I thought of him, because I couldn't stand kissing his ass, visiting him 3 to 4 times that year in 2018. I didn't like him. He wasn't nice to my mother. He didn't even pay attention to my sister. And he even told me that my sister had the nerve to sit on his furniture the way she did. She's a big woman. And her butt was like covering his cushions in a way that he didn't like. He didn't say anything much about that, but I ended up imagining why he said that he didn't like the way she was sitting. He didn't like the way she was sitting on his couch, okay? And I never defended that. I never argued with him about that, but I did say one thing that would prevent him from ever contacting me again. I said, well, at least her husband is there for her, and he still loves his children. He's there for his children. And that's really not true, but I said that to defend my brother-in-law, and I don't like him. My mother never liked him. I never liked him. He's garbage. He's a bigot. If you look up white trash, which is it's not a nice term. It is kind of racist to everybody, but if you were to look up that stereotype, that would pretty much be Michael, the brother-in-law. So when I had finally told my father, what I thought of him, and what I thought of the stepbrother, his son from a second marriage, and I didn't like the way the stepbrother had looked at one of my nieces, and he seemed really weird to me. I almost thought, is this a pedophile? Is this some kind of creep? He paid a lot of attention to the 9-year-old. There's a 12-year-old that was with us. She's also another niece of mine. And he seemed to pay attention, and he looked at one of my niece, the younger niece, in a certain way when her legs, she was sitting precariously, okay? And I ended up accusing him, this guy, Steven, the stepbrother, I ended up accusing him of being weird around her. And I would eventually ask him repeatedly if he has an interest in young people and in young girls, for example. I mean, I wouldn't like flat out say that, but I would eventually lead to that. He never admitted it. He never denied it. He would just call me a loser, a whore, a this, a that. By the time that I asked him that question, which was late 2018, by the time I told our father what I thought of him, I was ostracized, which I don't care. I don't care what these people think, whatever. But this is the crux of the problem, and as to why I'm doing this video. This stepbrother, and his name is Stephen Paul Niemeyer. He would, and I did, to be fair, I did, after he responded to me in a very nasty way, which was kind of fair, you know. I said what I said in a text to Paul Niemeyer and Stephen Niemeyer. He eventually called me a bunch of things, which was fair, but I went on his Instagram and said some things to him, which was not petty stuff. It wasn't anything major. But since then, Stephen Niemeyer would go through the channels of social media, and he would also eventually hack into my iCloud, get all the videos, everything I've ever had. He would go through private videos through a YouTube account, which was private. I would only send it to a couple people, which involved plagiarism with my book over a celebrity. I'm not even going to get into that because we don't have time for that. He would take these videos and send them to my employers, including videos that were on my iPhone via my iCloud. Okay. I'm making this video today because I eventually, when I found out through an employer of mine and through my former employer that he was doing this, I eventually contacted the police at Indian Harbor County, Indian Harbor Police Department in Central Florida. This guy lives in Satellite Beach, and he also lives in Melbourne on Fletcher Street. His name is Stephen Niemeyer. And I'm doing this because I want to mention this, and I also am concerned about my safety. I eventually contacted those police departments, including NYPD, where I live. And I also mentioned to his attorneys that are representing him in this probate situation with the deceased father and the deceased uncle. Hopefully they would talk to this guy and get him to stop. But he continued doing this, and I continued contacting the same people. Tonight, I happened to check my email, my work email. The same employer that he has contacted and said all kinds of negative, terrible things about me. And lies that, just things that are just not true. He then sent, when I responded to that, to the police department and copied to this guy's email, because since the harassment and everything, I went to People Search, I went to Been Verified, etc. I found out more about this guy. I found out his email, and I emailed my complaints and copied to him. So he sent me a cease and desist. I got it tonight, but it was sent like 4 days before tonight, making this video. And this guy has copied the same language, rhetoric, same context, connotations, or whatever that I've submitted about him. So my point about all this, not that this is not going to protect me. I just want to say, when it comes to psychopathy, I'm no angel myself, but when it comes to psychopathy, psychopathy is, it's like sociopathy, but there's a threshold that's crossed when that person wants to hurt someone malign that person, damage that person's reputation, damage that person physically, or even kill them. That's when you get into psychopathy, okay? And so I think my stepbrother Steven is a psychopath because he's not only done this with my employers, he's put videos, private videos of mine on YouTube. God, I don't know what else he's done. I don't really search for this because I don't even want to know what else he's done. But my point is, this guy's a psychopath, and I don't think he's going to stop because he sent these kinds of responses before. Cease and desist. I have not done this. I don't know what you're talking about. Stop contacting me. I don't contact this guy. I have nothing. I don't want to have anything to do with this guy. I don't even know him. I don't want to know him. But this has been a repeated cycle with this kind of interaction every 6 months, maybe every year since 2018. And I want to put this sort of as a login as far as what I'm going through, because I'm not sure what this guy is going to do in the end. But I do believe this is a psychopath that I'm dealing with. I'm not saying I'm innocent, because when he contacted me on social media and put all my identity out there, called me a whore, prostitute, a loser, I've committed fraud, I'm this or that, I eventually responded to him with his full name, but I deleted the tweets because I knew I could get in trouble for that. I wasn't proud of that. But this was years ago. And this guy's continuing to do this. And by now he's contacted my employers in the last couple months. So there's that. And the last thing I want to say, sociopathy is one thing. And maybe we're all on the same spectrum of psychopathy. There's just levels of it. You know, I'm no angel when it comes to social media. I wrote a book and I said a lot of things about celebrities, and the person that I believe cherry picked off my book, I harangued her. That's a long story. I'm not going to get into that. But when it comes to psychopathy, there's that, the main difference is crossing this threshold to violence, some spectrum of violence, to the point of killing the person. And that's where I think this guy, Steven, lies. And I'm a little concerned about it, and I think that's what motivated me to make this video. So I hope this makes sense. If anybody wants to respond to me, ask me questions, or advise me, please feel free, and do it anonymously. I totally understand that. Thank you for your time. Good night.